I often found myself staring into the mirror, questioning the reflection staring back at me. Who was I? Why did I feel different? It was a constant battle, swirling with confusion and uncertainty. I was Nathaniel, a 32-year-old family doctor, and while I had a decent career, a beautiful girlfriend, and a comfortable life, something felt off. The unease festered within me, a nagging whisper that I was somehow living a lie. Growing up, I'd followed all the societal expectations. I dated girls in high school, went to prom with a lovely girl named Rachel, and even had a college girlfriend who seemed perfect on paper. But deep down, I struggled to muster genuine excitement in those relationships. I felt a persistent disconnect, a longing for something I couldn't quite name. Why couldn't I fall in love like everyone else? Why didn't I feel the same way my friends did when they talked about their crushes? The more I tried to fit into the mold of a straight man, the more suffocated I felt. I often found myself feeling inexplicably drawn to certain male friends, feeling a flutter in my chest whenever I brushed shoulders with them or when their laughter rang through the air. It all came to a head one fateful evening during a colleague's birthday party. I stood in a crowded living room holding a glass of wine, desperately trying to engage in small talk with coworkers. Across the room I spotted him, Dylan, the new intern. He was younger than me, perhaps 23, with striking green eyes and an effortless charm that captivated everyone around him. As he mingled with other guests, I felt my heart race. There was something magnetic about him, something that drew me in. I watched him as he laughed, his entire face lighting up in a way that made my insides churn. Was I really feeling this way about another man? The thought terrified me. "Hey, Nate." Dylan's voice broke through my thoughts, and I turned to find him standing right next to me, a playful smile on his face. "You look like you're deep in thought." "Just trying to figure out if I should have another drink," I replied, forcing a laugh. He chuckled, leaning closer. "I wouldn't blame you. This party is a bit dull." His closeness sent shivers down my spine. I could feel his warmth radiating toward me, and I struggled to maintain eye contact. "Yeah, it could use some excitement," I managed to say, my heart pounding. The conversation flowed effortlessly as we chatted about work, hobbies, and our shared love for bad reality TV shows. With every passing moment, I felt a connection grow between us, a chemistry I had never experienced before. But fear gnawed at me, whispering doubts that I couldn't shake. As the evening wore on, I felt a sudden urge to escape the noise of the party. I excused myself and stepped outside onto the balcony, inhaling the cool night air. The stars twinkled above and I closed my eyes, trying to gather my thoughts. Moments later, I heard the door slide open, and I turned to find Dylan joining me. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice laced with curiosity. "Not at all," I replied, surprised by how my heart raced at his presence. We stood side by side, gazing out at the city below. The silence was comfortable, and I felt an overwhelming urge to share my truth with him. But fear held me back. "Nate, can I ask you something?" Dylan's voice broke the silence, pulling me from my thoughts. "Sure, what's up? Are you okay? You seem a bit off tonight," he said, concern etching his features. "I'm fine. Just had a long week at work," I lied, but the sincerity in his gaze made me reconsider. "I get that. But you can talk to me if you need to," he replied, his tone genuine. In that moment, I felt a spark of connection that I couldn't ignore. "Thanks, Dylan. I appreciate it." Our eyes met, and I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. In that moment, the distance I had maintained between us evaporated, leaving me vulnerable. As the weeks passed, our friendship deepened, blossoming into something I had never anticipated. We spent more time together outside of work, grabbing dinner, going to movies, and sharing secrets. With each interaction, I felt the walls I had built around myself begin to crumble. One evening we went to a local bar, the air thick with laughter and music. I watched Dylan as he interacted with friends, his laughter infectious. I felt a longing deep within me, an attraction I could no longer deny. As we walked home that night, I hesitated before speaking, my heart racing. "Dylan, can I ask you something?" "Of course, anything," he replied, his eyes sparkling in the dim light. "Do you believe in love?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He paused, searching my face. "I do. I think it's one of the most beautiful things in the world." "Have you ever fallen in love?" I pressed, needing to know more. "I have," he said softly, a distant look in his eyes. "But it didn't work out. Life gets complicated, you know?" My heart ached at the thought of his pain. "I'm sorry. What happened?" "Just timing, I guess. But it taught me a lot about myself," he replied, glancing away. As we reached his apartment, I felt an overwhelming urge to reach out to him. I wanted to close the distance that had grown between us. "Can I come in?" I asked, my voice trembling with anticipation. "Sure," he said, his tone playful yet inviting. Inside, the ambience shifted. The soft glow of the lamp cast a warm light across the room, creating an intimate atmosphere. I stood awkwardly for a moment, unsure of what to do next. Dylan walked to the couch, gesturing for me to join him. "Want to watch a movie?" he asked, his casual demeanor hiding the tension in the air. "Sure," I replied, but my mind was racing with thoughts of what I truly wanted. As the movie played, I could feel the electricity between us building. I stole glances at him, my heart pounding with every moment. And then, as if drawn by an invisible force, I leaned in closer. "Dylan," I whispered, my breath catching in my throat. "Yeah," he replied, his voice soft. "I don't want to hide how I feel anymore." His eyes widened and I felt exposed, but there was a sense of freedom in my honesty. "I think I might be into you." A slow smile spread across his face and my heart fluttered. "I'm really glad to hear that, Nate." And then it happened. Dylan leaned in, capturing my lips with his in a tentative kiss. It was soft and sweet, a gentle exploration of uncharted territory. I melted against him, feeling a rush of warmth enveloping us both. As the kiss deepened, I felt a surge of emotions flood through me. This was what I had been searching for: connection, understanding, and the thrill of romance. My hands found their way to the back of his neck, pulling him closer as we lost ourselves in the moment. But as quickly as it began, the reality of my situation crashed back in. I pulled away, breathless and confused. "What does this mean?" I asked, my heart racing. Dylan looked at me with tenderness. "It means we explore this together, one step at a time." Over the next few weeks, we navigated our new relationship cautiously. Every stolen moment felt like a secret between us, a beautiful yet terrifying journey into the unknown. We explored each other's lives, sharing intimate conversations and moments of vulnerability. But amidst the blossoming romance, I wrestled with my own identity. I often found myself in the bathroom mirror, staring at the reflection. Who was I becoming? Could I really be gay? Was I ready to face the world with this newfound truth? Dylan became my anchor during this tumultuous period. We would spend late nights talking, cuddled up on the couch, sharing our dreams and fears. I confided in him about my struggle with self-acceptance, and he listened without judgment. "You're not alone in this, Nate," he reassured me one night, his fingers gently brushing my hair back. "You'll find your way." As I grew more comfortable with my feelings, we began to explore our physical connection. One evening, after a particularly emotional day, Dylan invited me over to his place. The moment I stepped inside, the familiar rush of excitement and anxiety washed over me. "Want to watch something?" he asked, his tone casual yet charged. "Sure," I replied, but my mind was racing with possibilities. As the movie played, I could feel the tension building between us. I shifted closer, our thighs brushing against each other, and he looked at me, his eyes dark with desire. "Do you want to kiss me again?" he asked, a teasing smile on his lips. "Yes," I breathed, and in an instant, our lips met, igniting a fire within me. The kiss deepened and the world around us faded away. I felt the heat radiating between us, igniting every nerve in my body. My hands tangled in his hair as he pressed me back against the couch, the softness of the fabric enveloping us both. The kiss was intoxicating, a blend of urgency and tenderness that left me breathless. As we explored each other's mouths, I felt a new side of myself awakening, a side I had kept buried for far too long. I pulled away slightly, my forehead resting against his, panting for breath. "Is this real?" I asked, my heart racing. "Absolutely," Dylan replied, his voice low and steady. "We can take this as slow as you need. I'm here for you, Nate." The sincerity in his words melted away any lingering doubt, and with newfound confidence, I leaned in for another kiss. This time, I let my hands roam, exploring the contours of his body, feeling the muscles beneath his shirt. I had never been so captivated, so drawn to someone before. "Do you want to go to my bedroom?" Dylan asked, his breath hot against my skin. A rush of desire surged through me and I nodded, feeling both exhilarated and nervous. We stood, and as he led me down the dimly lit hallway, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and fear. In his bedroom, the atmosphere shifted. The walls were adorned with posters of classic movies, and the warm glow of fairy lights created an inviting ambience. Dylan turned to me, his eyes searching mine. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, my heart racing. "Yes, I want this." With that affirmation, he closed the distance between us, kissing me deeply as he guided me toward the bed. I felt a rush of adrenaline as we fell onto the soft sheets together, the world outside fading into nothingness. As our kisses grew more heated, I felt a rush of vulnerability wash over me. I had never been intimate with a man before, and the thrill of exploring this new territory sent shivers down my spine. Dylan's hands roamed my body, exploring every inch, igniting flames of desire that I never knew existed. I returned the favor, my fingers trailing over his chest, feeling the taut muscles beneath his shirt. I could feel the heat radiating off of him, our chemistry palpable in the air. It felt like an awakening, a rediscovery of a part of myself I had buried for so long. "Dylan," I murmured between kisses, "I've never done this before." His eyes softened and he smiled reassuringly. "Neither have I, really. But we'll figure it out together." With that, he leaned down, kissing a trail along my neck, sending electric shocks coursing through my body. I gasped, arching my back as I felt his warm breath against my skin. "You're so beautiful, Nate," he whispered, his words sending me into a blissful daze. Our movements became more frantic, driven by a mix of curiosity and desire. I lost myself in the moment, forgetting my fears as we explored each other's bodies, our kisses growing more passionate. As we took our time, I felt the boundaries of my identity slowly melting away. I was no longer just Nathaniel the doctor. I was Nathaniel the man who was discovering love and desire in the arms of another man. "Can I take this off?" Dylan asked, his hands hovering over my shirt. I nodded, my heart racing with anticipation. With a swift motion, he pulled my shirt over my head, exposing my bare skin to the cool air. I could feel his gaze traveling over me, and I couldn't help but feel vulnerable yet exhilarated. "Dylan, you're stunning," I breathed, and in that moment I felt more alive than I ever had. He chuckled softly, his eyes sparkling with affection. "You're not so bad yourself." We continued exploring, our bodies intertwining as we shared kisses that felt like a promise. The world outside faded completely, and all that existed was the two of us, lost in our own little universe. As the night wore on, I felt a sense of liberation. I was free to be myself, free to express desires I had suppressed for so long. Dylan and I navigated this new territory together, embracing each moment with an openness that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. But as the first light of dawn began to break, reality began to creep back in. I lay beside Dylan, his arm draped across me, and the weight of my situation settled heavily on my chest. I had never expected to feel so deeply connected to him, and yet I knew I had to face the consequences of my choices. What would happen when the sun rose? How would I navigate my feelings for Sarah? The guilt settled in the pit of my stomach, and I knew I couldn't hide from it any longer. "Dylan," I whispered, my voice barely above a murmur. "We need to talk." He stirred beside me, his eyes fluttering open. "What's wrong?" I need to figure things out. This is all so new and I don't want to hurt anyone," I admitted, my voice trembling. His expression softened and he sat up, concern etched across his features. "I get it. It's a lot to process. But you don't have to rush into anything. Just take your time." I nodded, grateful for his understanding. But as I sat there, wrapped in his warmth, I felt a pang of longing. I didn't want to lose what we had, but I knew I had to be honest with myself and with Sarah. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. I returned home, the weight of my choices heavy on my shoulders. I had to face Sarah and tell her the truth about my feelings. As I sat across from her at the dinner table, I felt a mix of dread and determination. "Sarah, can we talk?" I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Of course, Nate. What's on your mind?" she replied, her eyes filled with warmth. "I've been doing a lot of thinking and I need to be honest with you," I said, taking a deep breath. Her expression shifted, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "What is it?" "I think I might be gay," I said, my heart racing as the words tumbled out. The silence that followed felt deafening, and I watched as her eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean? Are you serious?" "I didn't plan for this to happen, but it did. I've been seeing someone who makes me feel alive in a way I never expected," I admitted, my voice cracking. Her face fell and I could see the pain in her eyes. "Is this about Dylan?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," I replied, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Sarah. You deserve someone who can fully love you, and right now, I can't be that person." She took a moment to process my words, her expression a mixture of hurt and confusion. "I can't believe this is happening," she said finally, her voice shaky. "I know it's a lot to take in, but I want you to know that you deserve better," I said, reaching for her hand. After what felt like an eternity, she nodded slowly. I just need time to process this. I never imagined you felt this way. I understand, I said, my heart breaking. I'll give you space. I never wanted to hurt you. As we parted ways that evening, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. I had been honest, but it came at a great cost. In the following days, I focused on my relationship with Dylan. We spent more time together, exploring the city and each other in ways that felt both exhilarating and daunting. One night, as we sat on a rooftop overlooking the city skyline, I turned to him, feeling the weight of everything I had been through. Dylan, thank you for being patient with me, I said, my voice soft. He smiled, his eyes filled with warmth. I'll always be here for you, Nate. Just be true to yourself. As the stars twinkled above us, I leaned in, kissing him softly. It felt like a promise, a commitment to embracing my true self. But as I delved deeper into this new relationship, I found myself grappling with the complexities of my feelings. I was falling for Dylan, but the guilt over how everything had unfolded weighed heavily on my heart. As weeks turned into months, I began to find my footing. I attended LGBTQ+ support groups, surrounded by individuals who had faced similar struggles. Hearing their stories helped me understand that I wasn't alone in my journey. But despite the progress I was making, the guilt over how I had hurt Sarah lingered. One day I decided to reach out to her, hoping we could talk. Can we meet? I texted, my heart racing as I pressed send. A few hours later she replied. Sure, let's meet at the coffee shop. When I arrived, I found her sitting at a table, her eyes scanning the room. As I approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and hope. Hey, I said softly, taking a seat across from her. Hey, she replied, her tone guarded. I know this is all so complicated and I'm really sorry for everything. I just wanted to see how you're doing, I said, my voice steady yet vulnerable. She sighed, stirring her coffee absent-mindedly. It's been tough, Nate. I never expected any of this. I thought we were building a life together. I know, and I messed that up, I admitted, feeling the weight of my choices pressing down on me. You deserve someone who can give you their whole heart, and I realized I can't do that right now. Her eyes met mine and I could see the hurt behind them. It's hard to process knowing that the person I loved has feelings for someone else. And it's even harder to accept that it's a man, she said, her voice wavering. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, I said, my heart aching for her pain. Dylan came into my life at a time when I was confused, and I had to confront feelings I had buried for so long. Silence hung between us, heavy with unspoken words. I could feel the walls we had built around our hearts closing in, but I wanted to break through them even just for a moment. Do you still care about me? She asked finally, her gaze steady. Of course I do. You were my first love, and that will always mean something to me. But I can't pretend anymore. I have to be honest with myself and with you, I replied, feeling tears well up in my eyes. She nodded slowly, processing my words. I appreciate your honesty, Nate. It hurts, but I can see that you're trying to figure things out for yourself. I just wish it didn't come at the cost of our relationship. I wish that too. I never wanted to hurt you. You are an amazing person, and I hope you find someone who can love you fully, I said, my voice breaking. A few moments passed in silence before she spoke again. I think I need some time away from you. I want to heal, and right now it feels too raw. I understand, I replied, my heart heavy. Take all the time you need. I'll always be here for you, even from a distance. As I left the coffee shop, I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. I had faced my truth, but at what cost? The guilt lingered, a constant reminder of the pain I had caused Sarah. In the weeks that followed, I focused on my relationship with Dylan, but the shadow of my past loomed large. We explored new places together, shared laughter and intimate moments, but every time I looked into Dylan's eyes, I couldn't help but feel the weight of my guilt. One evening as we lay in bed, I turned to Dylan, my heart racing. Can we talk about something? Of course. What's on your mind? He asked, concern etched on his features. I've been struggling with guilt over how I ended things with Sarah, I admitted, my voice trembling. I don't want to bring that into our relationship. Dylan reached for my hand, intertwining our fingers. You're allowed to feel that way. It's a part of your journey. But you shouldn't carry that weight alone. I'm here to support you. I know, but it feels unfair to you. You didn't ask for any of this, I said, my chest tightening. Love isn't fair, Nate. It's complicated. But what's important is that you're being honest with yourself and with me. That's what matters, he replied, his voice gentle yet firm. I sighed, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. Thank you for being so understanding. I just want to be the best partner I can be for you. You're already doing that by being open and vulnerable. We'll figure this out together, he said, pulling me closer. In the following months, I continued to navigate my feelings, seeking therapy and surrounding myself with supportive friends. I learned to embrace my identity as a gay man, slowly shedding the layers of doubt and shame that had held me back for so long. Dylan remained my steadfast companion, standing by me through the highs and lows. We explored our relationship further, sharing intimate moments that deepened our bond. One evening, as we strolled through the park, I turned to him, feeling a surge of gratitude. "I don't know where I would be without you," I admitted, my heart swelling with affection. He smiled, his eyes twinkling. "You would have found your way, Nate. You're stronger than you realize." As we sat on a bench, I took a deep breath, wanting to express the depth of my feelings. "Dylan, I think I'm falling in love with you," I confessed, my heart racing. His expression softened and he leaned closer. "I feel the same way, Nate. I've been waiting for the right moment to tell you." "Really?" I asked, feeling a rush of warmth spread through me. "Absolutely. You've changed my life in so many ways. You've helped me embrace who I am," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. In that moment, I felt a rush of emotions, joy, relief, and a sense of belonging. I leaned in, capturing his lips in a kiss that was filled with passion and promise. But as our romance blossomed, the shadow of my past continued to linger. I knew I had to face Sarah one last time to find closure for both of us. After weeks of avoiding her, I finally reached out. "Can we meet again?" I texted, my heart racing. A few days later, we sat across from each other at the same coffee shop where our last conversation had taken place. The air was thick with unspoken tension, and I felt a knot form in my stomach. "Hey," I said, my voice steady despite my nerves. "Hey," she replied, her expression guarded. "I wanted to talk to you about everything. I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, my heart pounding. "Okay," she said, her eyes narrowing slightly. "I realize now how much I hurt you and I'm truly sorry for that," I said, my voice trembling. "You didn't deserve to be treated that way." She nodded slowly, her gaze unwavering. "Thank you for acknowledging it. It means a lot. I've been working on myself, trying to understand my feelings and embrace who I am. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me," I continued, my heart racing. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet, Nate. It's still very fresh for me," she admitted, her voice quiet. "I understand. I just want you to know that I never intended to hurt you. You're an incredible person and I hope you find happiness," I said, feeling the weight of my words. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I appreciate that. It's going to take time for me to process everything, but I'm working on moving forward." "Thank you for being honest with me," I replied, my heart aching. As we parted ways, I felt a sense of closure begin to settle over me. I had faced my past, and while the road ahead was still uncertain, I was ready to embrace my future. With Dylan by my side, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We continued to explore our relationship, learning more about each other and building a foundation based on trust and love. In the months that followed, I immersed myself in the LGBTQ+ community, attending events and meeting people who had faced similar struggles. I felt empowered, and the weight of my past slowly lifted as I embraced my identity fully. Dylan and I shared countless memories, road trips, quiet nights in, and late-night talks about our dreams for the future. We grew closer with every moment, building a love that felt both thrilling and reassuring. One evening, as we cuddled on the couch, I turned to Dylan, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over me. "Thank you for being my rock," I said, my heart swelling with affection. "I'll always be here for you, Nate," he replied, his gaze warm and inviting. As the sun set, casting a golden hue over the room, I realized that I was finally embracing who I was meant to be. I had faced my fears, confronted my past, and discovered a love that felt true and authentic. In that moment, I knew that my journey was far from over, but with Dylan by my side, I felt ready to face whatever came next. I was no longer Nathaniel the doctor who was lost. I was Nathaniel the man who had finally found his place in the world, proud, free, and deeply in love.